Welcome back, listeners, to another exciting episode of Meet the Newton Kewuk. In this episode, we had the pleasure of chatting with Jon Mirasty. He's a remarkable individual who wears many hats, from a hockey player to an actor, a fighter, to a businessman, and now a council member at Flying Dust First Nations. Jon shares his incredible journey, emphasizing the importance of hard work, sacrifice, and goal setting. We delve into his work with youth, his involvement on the Shoresy TV show, and his aspirations as a leader in his community. Join us as we explore Jon's inspiring story and his unwavering dedication to creating pathways and opportunities for his people. So without further ado, let's jump right into this insightful conversation with Jon. Hey Jon, awesome to have you on, man. Thanks for coming. We'll just open up right away with just a bit about your background and where you grew up and a bit about yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me. I grew up, as you know, on Flying Dust First Nation, just a couple of minutes northeast of Meadow Lake. Grew up playing my minor hockey there, and yeah, I kind of had a pretty unique and adventurous childhood. I was all over the country, all over the North America, a bit here. So yeah, but my hometown and my roots are in Flying Dust.
That's awesome, man. Funny enough, I wasn't gonna make a big deal, but yeah, a Metal Laker as well. So we're trying to get the Metal Lake connection going on. There's going to this podcast and especially Flying Dust and even MLTC. Like there's just so much going on up there, and they're doing a lot of good things. And I'm in Alberta now, but I'm hearing so many good things just because of the line of work I'm in as well. So it's no, it's pretty deadly, and you're another I don't know what you want to call it, another golden nugget out of that area, man. There's a lot of good athletes coming out of that area, a lot of smart people, a lot of good things coming from there. So with that being said, we'll get into a little bit about your hockey, but I just wanted to talk about your acting a bit. Your hat reminded me of that looking at it now. So it's
Sure.
a pretty big deal. Boy from Flying Dust on the big TV. How'd that even happen, or what's going on with that?
Yeah, it was a great opportunity, actually. It's kind of funny how it came about, though. I guess people need to know that I'm not much of a TV guy. I think I watch three channels on TV, which would be Sportsnet and the odd movie and the odd news channel. But so I'm not very familiar with a lot of these sitcom shows and all that. So with being an employee of Flying Dust First Nation, our emails are made public. So I randomly get notes from fans back in the day or people trying to get a hold of me about my hockey career. And anyways, a lady had reached out to me, and I say just some lady, but she's actually pretty a big deal. Her name's Kara Hafelson. She's Jared Keeso's main assistant. But yeah, she had reached out to me on my email and basically just stated if I had any interest in possibly acting in affiliation with the TV show called Letterkenny. And, me being 40, 39 years old at the time, kind of laughed at it and thought, well, for one, what is Letterkenny? And number two, I'm an old man who wants me to start acting right now at this age. And so I obviously responded and said, yeah, I'd be interested, but I didn't really have a clue what it was about. Later that day, I went home and kind of joked around with my wife, and she didn't know what it was either, her being also American. So we ended up Googling it or YouTubing it, looking it up on the internet. And I remember the first thing I said was, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I don't have much of a sense of humor or anything. And I ended up looking at it and I was pretty interested. And long story short is I ended up just going on vacation at that time. So when I go on vacation to the States, I never check my work email. And when I got back 6 weeks later, I had an email from Kara that I had missed, and it gave me a deadline to say some kind of, they wanted me to do a little thing on my phone to, an addition, I guess you'd call it. And I was way past that deadline, so I just wrote back and said, I'm sorry, I was out of the country. Thanks for the opportunity, and within minutes, I got a response from Kara to say, no, Jared still wants you. Are you interested? So I didn't even have to really audition for the part. I was just welcomed onto the show, and that the rest is history. Jared Keeso, I can't say enough about the guy. The guy's a genius at what he does, and a huge advocate for First Nation people. If you watch Shoresy, there's a lot of Native people on there. Another local guy from Maquisagagan, so he's Sanguinet on the TV show. Harlan Kitewehat from Maquisagagan. There's a few girls there. There's the two Nolan brothers. So yeah, like I said, the rest is history. We went there and we're welcome like we were one of the team, and it was a really good atmosphere because it was just like playing hockey. It kind of reminisced of hockey. A bunch of guys staying at a hotel, and the first season it was in the middle of COVID, so it was a little bit different because there was so much isolation and stuff like that, and having to get swabbed every day before you go on scene, and um, you know, and I'm not much of a COVID follower, to be honest. I'm not extreme, but I'm not a huge believer in it. So for me, that was kind of a tough one to buy into all those rules and regulations. But it's turned out to be a fabulous opportunity for myself. I'm 41 years old now, and I'm a regular on the show, and we got to travel to Las Vegas with them, and travel all over Canada with them, and it just opened up so many doors for me in other aspects too. So like I said, a great opportunity, and it gives me an opportunity to continue, being motivation for our First Nation youth. There's a lot of kids that struggle right now, so I've tried to do that since I've been 16 years old, to be a guy that people can look up to and say, "Wow, if he can do it, I can do it." So, I try to stay as much of a role model as I can. Obviously, I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect, but just to create that guidance for our youth is means a lot to me, right? And I love having kids come up, and at first it was hockey, and then it's, acting, and now it's leadership with Flying Dutch First Nation. So things are going very good for me, and I'm very fortunate.
Man, that's awesome to hear. That's great. All of that stuff wrapped up together is amazing. And that's exactly the kind of the catalyst of why we started this. Like meet the Newton Kewak, man, meet the Warriors, and that's what it all means. And that's what is really important to me, and making sure that the young ones know, right, that there is opportunity, especially being on reserve. Um, Meadow Lake's not so bad, right? Because it's still pretty urban, I would say, more than anything. But you get up north quite a ways, and guys, people don't get a lot of opportunities, and they don't get to see a lot of things. And it's great to see people out there like yourself that are just role models, right? And they can prove that you can do things. You can prove that you can break down barriers, and um, it's pretty special to see, man.
Yeah, well,
The one question off of the acting side was going to be, are you part of the union now, or do you get to
yes,
do that?
I'm an actor. Yeah, I'm part of Actress, so it's the Canadian Union for Actors. I'm still learning. I said, it's not like it was NHLPA that I was involved in, or the PHPA, but it's got its benefits, when you're negotiating your contracts and stuff. But I'll be honest, I don't really take the actor too seriously. I don't really know even what it's about. They wanted me to act, and I had to fill out papers and become part of Actress. So that's kind of how that came.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And then with Jared, did he must have obviously followed your career before, or did what's he been saying in your guys' sit downs, or just when you're sitting around
Oh yeah,
bullshitting?
it's no secret. Jared's a big hockey fan, big avid hockey fan, especially in the case of fighting. I think he knows more about fighting than I do, and I did it for a living for 15, 20 years. So great guy. Even when I don't know if you follow the international ice wars that I'm involved with, when we recruit a bunch of fighters to come and basically have a UFC on ice. He's a guy that actually is behind the scenes that's always sending me guys. You should take a look at this guy or take a look at that guy, and these guys are from leagues that I've never even heard of, right? But he follows hockey very good, and just an all around great guy. Like I said, we always asked, like, people are making fun of him for bringing hockey players to become actors, and he just said, it's way easier to teach a hockey player to be an actor than it is to teach an actor to be a hockey player. So they were very patient with us, but at the same time really involved us, because he wanted, his goal was to make the most realistic hockey movie of all time, and not, you watch a lot of these hockey shows, and it's not, for example, a hockey fight. There's things that happen on TV that, and me as a guy that fought for a living, would say I would never do that. So I was able to put my input a lot in, and they change things around, and not just myself, Jordan Nolan, and also Brandon Nolan. We'd give our input of how what we lived with hockey, right? And I think that's how come it became such a good hockey show, is using guys that have actually played the game and lived it to being part of the production. So it's awesome, and it's still going. I guess I should throw this out right now for publication of them is season 2 will be starting on September 29th. I think they're playing the first 2 episodes here in Canada on Crave TV. It'll also be available on Hulu in America. So very exciting, and looking forward to going to shoot season 3 soon.
Oh, dude, that's awesome to hear, man. And yeah, that's got to be just it'd be perfect set to be on with freaking Terry Ryan and all them boys, eh? Just be a gong show of stories going around. I can
Like
just
like I-
imagine.
like I, like I said, it's just kind of a same thing as playing hockey. You know, bunch of boys every night going for dinner and having drinks and having to show up at the next day in the morning, maybe a little hungover to shoot. But all in all, an awesome experience, and I'm just glad to be a part of it.
Oh, that's sweet, man. That's great. I know most people listen to this would know about you or know about your background, at least with the hockey, but let's touch on it. I don't want to skim over the fact of that at all because you've done some amazing things in your career with hockey. And um, if anyone heard, there was just on Spit and Chicklets, which is a massive sports podcast, which was great. And you had some pretty awesome stories there, and you can definitely go check that one out too. But maybe even just starting in Meadow Lake. I know we had that minor hockey run of, I don't know what you want to call it, maybe 6 7 years. There was a window of just some really amazing athletes come out of there, and a lot of really good hockey players, a lot of tough hockey players come out of that timeline. But maybe start there and just a couple steps up from that.
Yeah, well, no, like you said earlier, Meadow Lake does produce a lot of good talent, and I think I should say a lot of tough talent. You got guys like, before me, Jeff Fries and Lenny. So, I don't want to miss any guys because I'm obviously going to miss a few, but there's so many guys. And then you get to my age group where there's myself, DJ King, Dwight King, Jeremy Yablonsky. Him and I are known for some pretty famous hockey fights. And so it just keeps producing more and more players. Berkeley, Butchko, guys that played college. There's so many guys here that have a lot of talent for a small little hockey town. So, I always laugh, you look at our senior teams and we're almost a professional senior team if you think about it with the guys that we have and the success that we had. A little bit hard, leaving that, you know, going into senior hockey talking about is having that edge when I played pro and you want to hurt people, right? And then when it's playing senior hockey, the guys still try to get under your skin and I'm having a hard time turning off that anger, to want to be competitive and to hurt. So it's a big adjustment for me, and I think what keeps me going right now, and I still don't know if I'm going to play this year because I am going to be gone for a few months this winter for previous commitments, but having to be able to play side by side with my son Tristan, he's 20 years old now, and I think it's pretty unique that me being 41 and him being 20 to be able to play with him on my line once in a while and let him play side by side with me is really special to me. So that's what keeps me going. And if I'm going to play another year, that's the key reason why is to be able to play beside my boy. Uh, it's hard. He gets mad at me too because obviously the role I played, I'm there to stick up for my teammates. And when someone touches my baby boy, I snap. And yeah, but Tristan gets mad at me. There was an incident this year where he was getting into a roughing thing behind the net. So I will fly in there and basically said, you touched the wrong fucking guy. But then I get to the bench and Tristan's yelling at me, leave me alone, Dad. I can take care of myself. So, I still have that edge on me, but it's just awesome. And to be able to play in front of all my friends and family and that's kind of why I do it now. So, but yeah, you're right. Meadow Lake has produced a lot of good players and hopefully we can continue to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a bit sad, right? With it's been a while since I've been back home, but when seeing the hockey rink burn down, which was, I don't know, I think I couldn't even tell you how many days and fucking years I probably spent there over time. Just parents dropped me off in the morning and picked me up after a Stampeders game, and that's that's where I live. So it's pretty wild. But yeah, no, I really hope that things can turn around there with the new. Hopefully, they get that new rec center built, and obviously with the rink on Flying Dust, which has helped out a lot, and just getting that talent back up and creating some teams that can actually stay around home and play in Meadow Lake and showcase that instead of having to be away all the time.
I agree. I agree 100%.
Absolutely, man. Well, I know, like I say, you've done lots, but ever since hanging up the blades, I know we talked a little bit about your acting career, but what do you got on the go on currently?
Oh, I laugh at myself. I'm a man of many trades. I first came home. It was my dream was to open up a Tim Hortons franchise, which I did in Meadow Lake, Saskatchewan. And over the years, it really wore on me. That business. So I ended up selling it right away. Got a little bit sick, but it worked out well for me. It was a chapter in my book, and it's still up and running here in Meadow Lake. I did sell it. So I've always dabbled in a little bit of everything. Like I joke around, I'm a hockey player, I'm an actor, I'm a fighter, I'm a businessman, and now I'm a politician. You know, I was recently elected into leadership for Flying Dust First Nation, which I take great pride in. You know, I've always kind of wore Flying Dust on my sleeve. You know, through my whole hockey career. You know, no matter where I went, I always was proud to be from Flying Dust First Nation, and so I just found it really fitting to come home and lead my people and you know, I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to see a lot of great things throughout the whole world. And so I want to pass that on to our younger generation and even some of our, you know, older people just to show that, you know, flying dust and life on the reserve is not everything. You know, there's a lot more out there and I'm a big guy that preaches to the kids that, you know, leave the reserve and go and find yourself in the world. And then, you know, when you get older, come back and give back to your community. Because we do have a beautiful community. You know, it's every reserve, every town, every place in this world, you know, has its flaws, but you know, we're really working to make it a better place. And you know, with our leadership team, I'm hoping that we can work hand in hand and move forward and really progress. And you know, with that being said, Flying Dust is probably one of the more progressive reserves in Saskatchewan. You know, we're into everything and we're growing rapidly. You know, sometimes I think we're almost growing too much, too fast. But at the same time, I'll take it, right? Because I want to create more opportunities for our people, for our youth, for our elders. So I'm all about growth, and that's what I'm here to do is to keep doing that. But at the same time, to provide you know, leadership ethics to our youth and to our younger people, just to lead by example, basically, is what I'm trying to do.
Oh, that's great, man. And it's great that you touched on getting out and traveling and going around and seeing things, right? Seeing the world, seeing how other people live,
Yeah.
not just watching it on screens or whatever it is, right? Or like really experiencing it and just meeting people and eating their food, doing all kinds of stuff, right? Like the
Like,
world's a crazy big place, man, and there's so much to see.
like I always say, though, I could tell you stories that people don't even believe, you know, when I was abroad, you know, in Russia or Kazakhstan, and I've seen things and done things that people would probably say, this guy's full of shit, you know, but it's true, you know, it's a way different, you know, way of life there. And it was nice to go and respect somebody else's way of life, you know, it's because we're so used to America or Canada or North America where we're really modernized. And, you know, back there in Russia, it was, I always tell people it was like probably 40 years behind us. So very educational. You know, I think that's the second best thing from university is just to travel and you know, I know a lot of people that are educated right up their arse, but do they have that world experience to travel the world and know how other cultures live is a key aspect for me. And I think that's where a lot of my knowledge comes from is just being able to see the world and see that there's a whole different system out there.
Yeah, that's a huge, massive point, man, and that's what I'm gonna beat that into the like my boys quite a bit as well. Like they very we homeschool and we're definitely going back to a lot of more traditional ways in the sense of my boys. I married a I married a white girl, so my boys are looking like the whitest Indians you'll ever see in your life.
I
Long
probably
hair, blue eyes, right? So it's kind of funny. So I'm trying to make sure that they still in touch with that. So like we smudge every morning and do different things to make sure that we're still in touch with that. But getting out there and seeing, like you say, seeing how the world lives. And I always tell people like I didn't know I was that ignorant to things. Like we lived in the UK for a couple of years and then traveling all throughout that and spending time in Berlin and oh well, all over the place, but Berlin comes to mind just because I used to always make it a point to like stay right in the middle of town, not stay in some hotel or something, right? Like stay right in the middle of town, spend however much time there, but just going to a grocery store or going to like convenience store and hey, yeah, I'll get a pop or get something, but they have no idea what you're saying because they don't speak English and they don't care about speaking English, right? And you just realize how small and insignificant a person is in the world when you can't even speak the language.
remember being in Russia, my wife and I would go to the grocery store. And I mean, like you said, the things that we take for granted every day here, sometimes they don't have that, right? So I remember one time we were shopping in a grocery store, and I want to say it was peanut butter or it was Gatorade. It was something that I really like, and you never see it in any stores. And the one day, so it was there on the shelf. So I said, well, shit, I might not see this for another month or two, so I'm gonna buy it all. So I cleared out the whole shelf of it was either peanut butter or Gatorade. I can't remember, but I bought it all thinking, okay, well, if I don't get it now, I'll never get it again, right? So, and there was a couple of people behind me kind of getting mad, but I didn't care because I wanted, you know, so like you said, just going to the store and the convenience store and grabbing a chocolate bar or something. Sometimes you don't have that luxury over there, right? So people don't realize that, it's a different world. And, sometimes we're even ignorant about it. We're like, oh, well, in America, we have that. So sometimes I get why there's a lot like in Russia, it's kind of known that a lot of the Russians don't like the Americans. And I could see why, we'd go to a restaurant and we'd ask for something and they'd say, oh, we don't have that there. And then the guys would almost make fun of them. Well, how come you don't have that there? In America, we have that, but at the end of the day, you're in their house, right? You don't tell them how to live. So that really opened my eyes as, it's a different world and you can't judge people. We're in their house. You got to respect their rules. So, yeah, that was a big eye opener for me.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's crazy. So yeah, I really like that you're an example of that and you can talk to these youth and they'll listen to you, right? And talk to and take some of that to heart. I really hope they do because so many indigenous youth, they're always stay home. And I used to see it a lot with hockey players just because that's what I've seen, but just guys, unbelievable talents, unbelievable everything in 16, 17 and they come home right away, right? Or and just get homesick or they didn't have that leadership or a mentor to tell them to stick it out or help them in any way, right? And they'd feel the pressure and feel homesick and they just come home and kind of swindle it all away.
Yeah, and over the years, I've became really well connected in the professional hockey world, and I've sent a lot of our Indigenous young men to go to pro tryout and stuff, and these are some of the best players around Saskatchewan, in the Indian circuit hockey that are very good hockey players. But then I send them to a camp and at the pro level, and they're just not prepared for, it's a whole different world, and I don't think people see that. Take me for an example. I was always a guy around Middle Lake that was full of muscle and people look and say, "Holy man, look how good a shape he was in." But then I would go to an NHL camp and I was probably in the worst shape there out of anybody because, people don't realize how elite that hockey is. So I think a lot of our First Nation people, like you were saying earlier, we have a lot of skill and a lot of talent, but it's going that extra mile, that extra thing. I'll be the first to admit I wasn't the most skilled guy at, playing. When I was younger, I was, but I had the work ethic. I was willing to sacrifice and do whatever it took. And that's something that I think I would like to even do in the future is to train our younger hockey players that, there's more than just being naturally skilled. You have to put the work in and the sweat and the tears. But I won't deny that there's so many skilled native hockey players in the north that could go far ways, but they just don't because they're so used to being, at home on the reserve. And, I remember me when I first left at a young age. I think I left when I was 15 or 16 years old, and I would call my dad crying to, I wanted to come home and be with my friends and, my family and stuff. And my dad would just say, no, there's nothing here for you. Stay out there, and I ended up staying, but there was a lot of nights where I'd cry and want to come home. And even as a grown adult, it was so hard to get up and leave because I had a son from Meadow Lake, and a lot of times he'd stay here, and I'd have to go to Russia or I'd have to go to New York to play hockey. And that was the hardest thing. People didn't see the tears that I'd shed because I'd leave my son, but at the same time, I wanted to be somebody for him to look up to, right? So the sacrifices that I made, and I think it paid off. My son's doing really good now. My little girls are very outgoing and active, and so I don't want to pat myself too much on the back, but I think my wife and I are doing a pretty good job with our kids. And Tristan's actually my wife's stepson, but even Ashley, my ex, Tristan's doing really well and successful. And it's just nice to see your seed grow, right? Because Tristan's my boy or my kid. It's nice to say, oh wow, I'm turning them into good people. And I think that the way the world's going right now, we need a lot more good people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No, exactly, man. And that's the biggest thing. And I'm fortunate I get to speak to a lot of young ones about apprenticeship and education and different things. And my education was horrible. Just I'm not I always say I'm not a smart guy. I don't know. I didn't do school very well and I didn't work hard. It wasn't a priority, right? Like there'd be days you'd miss days because your dad would say, "Oh, we're chasing cows today. You're doing something, right?" Like school was not important
Yeah.
at all in my life. And then carry that on into like grade 12 in Onion Lake and like going to school in reserves in grade 12 for a guy that didn't care and uh dyslexic and all the other things. It wasn't a good mix. So
Yeah.
um but the work ethic was there, right? So it's funny now because I work with all these high-end engineering stuff and all this other crazy things and
Mhm.
um have no business being in the room on paper, but then it's like, how'd you get here? It's like, well, hard work. You go tell me to dig a hole. I'll dig a hole for like a day. I don't care, right? But
Put
um
your mind
yeah,
to it. That's all.
yeah, that's all it is, right? So no, that's deadly, man. And then going into now more your leadership role in Flying Dust. I know you're on council there. Can you speak to any of the portfolios that you're looking after?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously share a lot of our portfolios. Economic development's kind of a shared portfolio, but I am partnered up with Connie DeRocher on our education, which to me is a key portfolio. The future of our kids, and we really want to get them educated and be set a high standard for them. So education's one of them that I'm very passionate about. Justice is another one. Obviously there's a lot of negative things that are going on in the reserves. I don't want to just pinpoint it to reserves, kind of everywhere in our world. So I'm very passionate about our justice system and the drug dealing and the gangs and all that. I'm really trying to show our youth a better way. So those are two. I did just recently took over the gravel pit on Flying Dust, which is a part of our economic development, and just kind of turning that around and trying to get it going the right direction and make it kind of a money tree for us because gravel pit usually they say is a money pit. So we're really working on that, and since I've been in, I really like to see the progression that's happened there. It's turning around and we're showing good numbers. So all in all, like I said, I find my son. I was driving bus this morning, for the school. I'm just trying to do whatever it takes to be that leader. We're really short on bus drivers right now, so I was up at 6:30 this morning starting a big school bus, and I kind of, as an inside joke, I laugh. One day I'm on national TV, and then the next day I'm driving a school bus, and so I always say, like I said, I just do whatever it takes to make our community move forward. Obviously I want to help our people as much as I can. So I just, like I said, I'm not going to keep repeating myself, but I just do whatever it takes to set that example and show people that I really care.
Oh, that's what we need, man, and that's what we need more of. You got to put that ego aside. The ego's there. The ego is it's enough. That's great. But yeah, like you say, be on TV one day, driving the bus in the afternoon. Who cares, right? You just get it done, and people see that, man. It goes a long ways.
Like I said, I think my biggest asset to being in leadership is the work I do with youth. I mean, it's been no secret that even when I was playing professional hockey 15 years ago, I'd always come home and I'm not one of these guys that I'm old school. I'm like a Daryl Sutter kind of coach. I'm not gonna baby kids, or I'm not gonna I do demand a hard work from them, and I demand them to help and prove to me that they're gonna do that. But in return, I always, I have a lot of the toys, like, with my hockey career and stuff. I've had boats and I have dirt bikes and I have quads and I have horses. And so what I do is I like to take these young men, young kids that are, especially the behavior kids or, the kids that are getting in trouble. And I take them out to the ranch. And like you said, chase cows, fix fences, shovel horse shit. It doesn't matter, just put them to work and teach them that work ethic. But then at the end of the day, I'll, okay, well, let's go to the lake today, or let's go tubing, or let's go quadding, or let's go set a net, or let's go ride horses. So I think that's the biggest thing I think that the people saw in me as a leader is what I'll do with our youth. And obviously now that I am in leadership, it's a little bit harder because there's a lot of big meetings you have to be at and a lot of bigger things that you have to deal with. But I still want to make time for the youth and our elders. I really like to go out and fish and hunt for our elders and give them meat and fish, and just to be a provider. And like I said, I need, there's things that I need to work on, and I'm still learning every day. But my drive is there to be the best. My goal is to be one of the best leaders that Flyness has ever seen, and I'm going to continue to do that. I don't know if you see my picture up here. My grandpa, my late grandpa, he was one of the longest serving chiefs of Flying Dust, and so I'm trying to live in his footsteps. And a lot of people come up to me and say, your grandfather was one of the best chiefs that Flying Dust ever had, and I hope one day they'll say that about me. So that's kind of my motivation right there.
Oh, that's special, man. And that is, and then you're on the right path. You're doing it right, especially with the youth. I know that's where I know it was always cliche when I heard it all the time, but that's where that is the future, right? And they are, and they need to see people out there doing things, and they need the motivation to get out there and do things, and not just sit on the couch all day and
Yeah.
get fat and play video games, right? So it's pretty awesome to see, and I'm very fortunate that there is people like you out there.
Yeah.
Um, with definitely being back on the reserve, being back in leadership, being back home is and you're traveling all through your career, right? You're all over the place. Is it have you taken any steps, or have you getting back into more of a, I don't know what to say, traditional ways, but have you more on the indigenous side? Have you are you taking part in any ceremonies? Have you do things for yourself? What's that look like?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm the most traditional because I did grow up in a Christian family. I mean, my grandpa Frank was a preacher. Um, but I'm a guy like I'm First Nations, I'm treaty, I'm Native, I'm Indigenous, whatever you want to call it, and I'm very interested in the traditional ways as well. but I didn't grow up with it, so I'm kind of just learning. And sweats and smudge and all that. I wasn't raised that way, but I'm proud of being First Nation. So yeah, I'm trying to learn. The one thing that I am very traditional in is like with our youth is I the land-based education, the hunting and the fishing and the trapping and the snaring. I do a lot of that. But as far as the ceremonies go, I'm not very educated on that and I don't participate that much. With that being said, I'm not against it at all. I'd love to learn, but you said earlier, Flying Dust is kind of urbanized and we're right by Meadow Lake. And so I find that our reserve is not as traditional as the majority of the reserves. I don't want to offend anybody, but it's kind of true the way I see it is we just live so close to town all the time. We kind of are a little bit more urbanized, So, but again, like I said, I'm the guy that's even with our education in our school, I'm always taking kids out on the lake, out on the land, and teaching them what I can about what I know, hunting and like I said, the hunting and the fishing. And I like to always involve some of our or older traditional elders to come along, and so they could pass it on to the kids, and at the same time pass it on to me. Like giving thanks to the creator when we make a kill or acknowledging the land and stuff like that. So I'm very traditional with the land-based education, but I just would say I'm not very traditional with the ceremonial stuff, more of the religion side of it.
No, that makes sense. Absolutely. And I've learned that. I've learned that down the road, sometimes the hard way. But there's definitely each to their own and everyone's doing their own thing. Spent a lot of time way up northern Alberta working with different communities and
Yeah.
just making assumptions like, oh yeah, you get like we're like designing a school and you're gonna put all these traditional things in it, and then had to get pulled aside and say, no, 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 we're very this is more Anglican, more Christian
Yeah.
based, right? So you just
But
have to
like I said,
learn.
I'm a supporter of both. I'm a big believer that even with politics, you shouldn't push one side of your political view to people. If whether you want to be a liberal or a Democrat or a conservative, I just think that we just have to go. I just want to believe to provide all options for people and let them choose. Because right now in the way societies, it's like we're trying to push agendas on so many different people, and whether, I don't want to get too political, but you know what I'm saying? It's just, I don't like to just say, oh, we have to be straight Anglican or, or we have to be straight treaty traditional, it's just, we should provide everything and let them choose, and that's the way I see it. So that's kind of my point of view in leadership is I want to be traditional, but if we also want to be religious and, that way we can take parts in all different avenues.
Yeah, no, that's great. And that's what we need, right? And that you have to have those open minds. And a lot of people don't. You get closed off, and myself included in different aspects. I get tunnel vision and I think there's only one
Oh,
way, but I lose sight that there's 20
yeah.
different ways to do it, right? And
I'm one of those. I'm one of those guys. I have my way, but I don't like to enforce it on anybody else. I'll keep my mouth shut as long as you keep your mouth shut. But if you start trying to push it on me, then I'll probably argue with you.
yeah.
But like I said, I don't want to get too political.
Yeah.
I,
No,
I
that's
have
Delhi, man. That's good.
my
That's
political
good.
views.
No,
Uh,
that's awesome. I guess another political question for you though, like seeing back home, Flying Dust, getting that land back. I know that was a long process. There's a lot of years in the making, but
yeah.
has that created some excitement and some buzz around the office and some different ideas flowing?
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's prime land that was originally our land. I don't want to speak too much on it because I wasn't in leadership at the time, so I don't know
Mm.
exactly how it worked. But from what I'm aware, is it was land that was originally ours that they didn't really give to us, and they've been using it for the last 150 years. And we finally just came upon a settlement where that land was given back to us. And that land consists of like where the RCMP detachment's on, and there's a bunch of businesses that are previously on there. So now we're the landowners of that land, so they have to pay us rent for that piece of property. With the RCMP building, I think it's great for relationship building. I want to have a really good relationship with the RCMP. Um, that's a prime piece of property. It's basically in the town of Meadow Lake or the city of Meadow Lake, sorry. But it's right in town, right north of Railway Avenue. So we do have plans of opening that up into an economic development area. Businesses, franchises. We have big plans there. It's just not going to happen overnight. There's a lot of infrastructure that we have to get done and finalization of turning it over to treaty lands. But yeah, it's a really exciting time right now, and I'm really looking forward to being involved in that to create more to the city, on behalf of Flying Dust. It's nice to have that reserve land right in town. So I'm very excited, and it's going to open up a lot of doors for us.
Yeah, no, that's deadly, and it's great to see as a nation and just as Flying Dust to be able to just add that to the arsenal and have some income and have some of that income that's their own, right? And made themselves so that you guys have say of what you're doing with that instead of always having to the world I live in, I always work on behalf of the communities, but I have to beg for money from ISC and everyone else all the time. So it's nice for you guys to have some of your own and be able to do what you want with that and not have to beg for all this money all the time.
Definitely.
No, that's great. We kind of touched on it throughout this already, but just some of, like I say, you've been all over, just some of the lessons you learned, some of the main takeaways in your journey. But is there any, call it one thing even just to pass on that next generation of the youth? What's something important that you see?
For me, I think with my success, it's always been setting goals. I mean, I think I'll be 80 years old if I'm still alive at that time, and I'll still be having goals. Whether you reach those goals or not, at least you're chasing something. That old saying they say, shoot for the moon and you'll land on the stars. As long as you're chasing a dream, and that it's no secret that I had a little bit of a depression episode there. When I opened my Tim Hortons, and people were trying to blame it on hits to the head or CTE or all that. But for me, I think I think I got it figured out. Is my whole life I've always had goals, and chasing goals. Whether when I was a young kid, I wanted to play junior hockey, and then I made it to junior hockey, and then I said, okay, well now I want to play in the WHL, and then I made it to the WHL, and then after the WHL, okay, well I want to play pro, and then I made it pro, and then okay, well I want to play in the AHL, and I made it to the AHL, and then okay, I want to play in the NHL, and so I was always chasing something, and then after hockey came to an end, okay, well I want to own a Tim Hortons, so then I chased that, right, and then I finally got to Tim Hortons, and then I was like, well shit, what am I going to do now? And I think that's where my depression kicked in, because I didn't know, I wasn't content with what I had. So, now that saga is over, I sold it. Okay, I want to be a leader of my community. So now I'm a leader of my community, and now I have bigger goals. I want to lead all the nation. Like you just want to keep chasing something. Will it always happen? Probably not, but at least I always have a goal to chase. So for me, when I do a lot of motivational speaking, I always speak about setting goals. That's the biggest thing for me. Is always to have something that you're chasing. And like I said, I'll probably die chasing another goal. So but I'm okay with that because it's always giving me something to do and it's not keeping me bored. And just hard work ethic and sacrifice. People, I get chirped a lot. Coming from a First Nation community or people, they call it the crabs in the bucket, where one crab does really good and they all pull him back down, and that's happened to me ever since I've been in junior hockey. People, there's a lot of haters out there, and you just got to overcome that and keep working hard, and like I said, I don't say no. I'm a go-getter, and I work hard, and I've really learned to listen more than always talk. I've always been a guy that had my opinions, and the older I get, I'm trying to learn just to listen and absorb, and then sometimes keep my mouth shut. I guess you could say I have a big mouth. But yeah, like I said, just be a good person, treat people how you want to be treated. I used to judge people just because of things I heard, and now the way I look at it is, if you treat me good, I don't care who you are, I'll treat you good. I guess I shouldn't say this, but if you treat me bad, well, guess what? I'll be your worst enemy too. So just treat others how you want to be treated, and work hard and have that work ethic is probably the best advice I have.
Those are all hitters, buddy, and they all make sense. I spoke about every one of those things, and purpose is a big one. I've been down that same road. I hit a really bad wall there. This is quite a few years ago now, but same thing. I lost purpose. I lost sight of what I was chasing or after or anything, and just fell apart for quite a while and couldn't do nothing. It hits everybody like that. But no, as men, as leaders, and you really need that purpose. You need that drive, and you need something to work towards. So that's great. And that crabs in the bucket, man. I see it every day, buddy. Everywhere I go, I see it all the time. And it's
Just
hard when it's your own family and own people, right? It's
yeah.
who do
and
you think
it,
you are?
and like I also like to always say, it's okay to get bucked off the horse. You get bucked off. I mean, you grew up with horses. What did your dad tell you? You get
Yeah, you
back
don't have a choice, buddy. Get back in there. Yeah. Yeah.
on that horse, and I've been bucked off lots. You try something and it fails, and Tim Hortons, for example, I tried and it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, but guess what? I'm doing good today, just as good. I'm probably doing better than I was back then. So just never be scared to take a chance, and I've taken lots of chances, and I just keep going and keep learning. It's a book.
Oh,
One chapter ends, the next chapter begins.
yeah, that's deadly, man. And that's the thing, right? You got to take those chances. You're gonna get beat up. You're gonna get knocked down, and but it's the lessons you learn off of that, and it's the experience you get off of it. And I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not. There's a reason I'm talking to you, and there's reason people want to talk to you because you're doing things, you're chasing things, right? Nobody wants to talk to the guy that's sitting on his couch all day at home.
yeah.
There's just nothing there. There's no stories. There's no nothing, right? So, no, that's special, man. That's deadly. I definitely want to be aware of your time. So I just got just a couple more of your talk. You mentioned it, talking goals. You're talking leadership. Is there any goals? Maybe we'll call it just the immediate right now for yourself. Maybe just one for yourself and one that you got for Flying Dust.
Well, I got tons of goals. It's to pinpoint on two or three right now. It's kind of hard, but just to move forward and always progress. And like I said, for my nation, I want to get us in a better situation financially. I want to create more opportunity for our people, but those are really big goals, and they're not going to happen overnight. For myself, is just to be a better man every day, and really watch my kids grow up, because at the end of the day, that your kids are who look up to you, right? And I'm the first to say I'm not perfect. I've fucked up a lot in my life, but at the end of the day, I can say I'm trying my best, and I'll keep trying. So yeah, I don't have too much goals that I can spout out right now. Obviously, we are aiming for season 3 of Shoresy. I'm looking forward to that. That's always a conflict of interest for me, because like you said, I'm elected into leadership now, but I do have to take off for a long period of time to film. So I always kind of, it's a scale. Do I go or do I stay, or what's more important? But at the end of the day, I think when I go, I'm setting an example for our youth and for our people. And when I campaigned, then that was a question that came up, and I didn't have one person tell me, that I shouldn't go. As long as I'm available to the people, and my phone's on and my emails are working, I'm here to answer the bell. And so I've made my decision that I am going to go back to season 3. I was willing to step down from that, but then I had a lot of people tell me I'm the stupidest man on the planet if I just give that up. So it is an opportunity for pretty much any man that would like to have, right? So I'd be stupid to turn that down. And
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
and you nailed it. As long as you're available, as long as you're able to do some work or do your work,
yeah.
then it's the best example, and that's the best shining light that we can put on it. So I mean, as long as you're holed up and we can make both work, that's probably the best thing to see out there for sure.
That's been a thing it bothered me even last time, because when I was first elected, it came up and I had to leave for I think 4 weeks. So it really bothered me, and it does. I don't want to be that guy that gets in and then just runs, but I'm here for the people first and foremost, and part of the reason why I'm there is for the people. Like I said, just to continue setting those examples. So uh, my wife and I sat down, and I just said I'm still going to go and continue to do that path as well, and just let people see that I'm opening pathways for themselves as well.
That's awesome, man. Sweet, buddy. Well, thanks again. Thanks for your time. But just for close this out, like where can people find more about John, and where can people follow some of your escapades here, your adventures?
It's I guess social media is probably the best place. It's always every day someone sending me something or mentioning my name, and even with the Spit and Chicklets episode there, I've never watched. I've done a lot of these podcasts. I've never watched one full podcast since I've done these for the last 10, 15 years. So I've been getting a lot of good feedback on the Spit and Chicklets. They said that they liked it. I kind of told all and enjoyed it, and it was fun to talk to Biz Nasty there. Him and I had a few bloody battles back in the day, so it was fun to joke around about those. And yeah, like I said, I'm always around Flying Dust First Nation in Meadow Lake, Saskatchewan. I'm off to Phoenix quite a bit now. The older I get, I like to go down there, for a little bit and keep my hands warm. But yeah, just keep plugging away and doing what I'm doing.
That's deadly, man. Well, again, I really appreciate your time, and congratulations on all the success. And I know Flying Dust is in good hands with that leadership team. You guys are doing some pretty awesome things. So again, thanks, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me.